Last Halloween, I wanted to make things special for my son Ben. We had just moved to a new neighborhood. Every house was decorated for the holiday. I thought it would be perfect for trick-or-treating. Ben wore his ninja costume, and I dressed as a witch. I could see the excitement on his face, and it made me happy too. We started walking down the sidewalk. Laughter filled the air, and kids ran around collecting candy. I felt a sense of joy. We stopped at house after house, filling Ben's bag with treats. It felt great until we reached an empty house at the end of the street. Everything about that house was dark. I mean, pitch dark. I didn't see any lights on or movement, nothing. Then I heard it. A doorbell rang. I froze. Who rings a doorbell at a vacant house? Ben tugged my sleeve. He wanted to knock on the door. I shook my head and said, "Let's keep going." I felt a weird chill, like someone was watching us. As we walked away, I glanced back. I thought I saw something. Shadows moved past the dark windows. My heart was racing. I wanted to shake it off, but laughter surrounded us. It was soft and eerie, like children playing. I felt uneasy. Ben seemed to sense it too. We finished trick-or-treating and returned home. Ben dumped his candy on the floor. He squealed with joy. I felt relieved, but then I noticed something odd. Beneath the candy wrappers was an antique mirror. It looked out of place. A note was taped to it. It simply said, "Look closely." I picked it up, puzzled. I held it steady and looked into it. My reflection stared back, but I saw something flicker behind me. I jumped and looked around the room. Ben squealed and clung to my arm. The laughter from that empty house echoed in my mind. It felt wrong. I turned back to the mirror. My face was still there, but it felt like something was watching from behind. I wanted to believe it was my imagination, but that chill remained. I could almost hear the laughter again. I wanted to hold on to the happy memories from trick-or-treating, but they felt clouded by that strange encounter. Ben began sorting his candy again, blissfully unaware of the chill coursing through me. He asked if we could keep the mirror. "Maybe it's magic," he said. I smiled weakly, but the laughter kept creeping back into my thoughts. What happened that night? The mystery gnawed at me. I sometimes think about that empty house. I wonder if it holds more than just shadows. Maybe it has secrets waiting for someone to uncover them. I don't know if I'll ever find out, but I can't shake the feeling that something in that house was calling us, and part of me wants to know what it is. The next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about the mirror. I pushed it to the side while Ben and I had breakfast, but every time I glanced at it, my heart skipped a beat. I needed to know more. The dark house was calling at me, pulling me closer. I decided to take a walk in the neighborhood, hoping to shake off my unsettling feelings. As I stepped outside, the sun was shining. The laughter of children was replaced by silence. A few leaves danced in the gentle breeze. I walked toward the empty house, urging myself to be brave. It was just a house, I told myself. There was nothing to fear. But when I arrived, I felt that familiar chill. The property looked even more abandoned in daylight. The grass was overgrown and the porch sagged. I squinted through the windows, and the darkness inside seemed to swallow the light. I hesitated, but I was too curious to turn back now. Then, without thinking, I walked up to the door. It creaked and groaned as I pushed it open. Dust hung in the air, and the smell of decay hit me like a wave. I stepped inside, my heart pounding. The emptiness felt heavy, as if the house was waiting for something. As I moved deeper into the house, I noticed old photographs lining the walls. They appeared faded and forgotten. I examined one closely, and my breath caught. The people in the photo looked oddly familiar. They wore old-fashioned clothes, a family posing in front of the very house I stood in. The woman in the photo had a striking resemblance to the reflection I saw in the mirror last night. My mind raced. Were these people connected to the mirror? I felt a tingling at the back of my neck. Maybe I shouldn't have come here. Suddenly, a noise startled me. I turned quickly, and the door slammed shut. My pulse quickened, and panic surged through me. "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling. I heard a giggle, soft and playful, just like last night. The laughter echoed through the hollow room. I felt frozen, but I needed to move. I caught a glimpse of a shadow darting past the hall. It was quick, almost like a child. "Ben?" I whispered, but I knew he was at home. At that moment, I wished he were with me. Following the sound, I found a door at the end of the hall. It was slightly ajar, and my curiosity won over my fear. I pushed it open. Inside, the room was dim, with dust-covered furniture. But what caught my eye was a small trunk sitting in the corner. It looked old and rusty, and my heart raced at the thought of what might be inside. That's when I saw it again, movement in the corner of my eye. A shadow dashed past the window, but when I turned to look, nothing was there. I took a step back, my instincts screaming at me to leave. I turned to the trunk, but before I could reach it, the laughter erupted again, louder this time. It felt almost like a warning. I was about to make a terrible mistake. Just then, a faint whisper floated through the air. It was soft but chilling. "Help us." My heart sank. That was not just a simple trick-or-treating adventure anymore. I needed to find a way out. Then, everything went dark. I blinked into the darkness, my heart pounding. I felt disoriented, as if I had been spun around and lost my bearings. It took a moment before my vision adjusted. I was still inside the room, but I was no longer alone. In the corner, the trunk that had captivated me earlier now seemed more ominous. The air felt colder, heavier, and the shadows around it seemed to stretch out like fingers. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but I was rooted to the spot. "Hello?" I called out again, my voice shaking. I didn't expect an answer. That's when I caught it, a faint flickering of light from beneath the trunk. I crouched down, squinting to see better. A glimmer caught my eye. It looked like water or glass. Whatever it was pulsing with a soft glow. My curiosity fought against my fear. I had to know what this was. As I reached out to touch it, a loud bang resounded through the room, shaking me to my core. I jerked my hand back, barely avoiding the trunk. Breathe. I needed to breathe. I took a step away, but the laughter returned, more insistent and surrounding me. It felt trapped, like the sound itself was begging to be set free. "Stop it!" I yelled, panic creeping into my voice. "Who's there?" The giggles stopped immediately, and silence descended once more. But I wasn't alone for long. I swore I felt a faint chill on the back of my neck, a tangible presence hovering just behind me. I turned slowly, scanning the shadows. Just as I did, a figure materialized near the doorframe, a little girl with pale skin and dark, unkempt hair. My breath caught in my throat. She was wearing an old-fashioned dress, tattered and stained. "Help us," she repeated, her voice echoing hauntingly in the silent room. Her eyes were wide and pleading, but I felt confusion wash over me. Who was she? What kind of help did she want? My mind raced back to the photographs. Was she one of them? I took a cautious step forward, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do you want from me?" The girl tilted her head as if considering my question. "You're the only one," she said softly. "You can see us." A sharp chill shot through me. Who were the others? Someone or something lurked in the depths of the house, but the girl was still here, begging. The urgency in her voice thawed my initial fear. "Where are your parents?" I asked. "How can I help?" Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed from another part of the house, sending a jolt of pure terror through me. The girl's eyes widened, her form flickering like a flame caught in the wind. Then, in an instant, she dissolved into the shadows, leaving me alone once more. Now, I was trapped. I needed out, but it felt like the house itself was holding me prisoner. The laughter returned, louder and more chaotic than before. It was no longer playful, it was sinister. I took off toward the door, my heart racing. Just as I reached for the handle, I felt a cold grip on my wrist. I turned around. The girl wasn't gone. She was standing right beside me, her expression fierce and terrified. "Don't go," she whispered urgently. It was too late. I yanked my arm free and bolted for the door. As I stumbled back into the hallway, I realized I had to find a way to help them. But what if the dark house had other plans? I ran down the hallway, panic fueling my steps. The house groaned around me, each creak echoing like a warning. I had to get out. I couldn't shake the image of the girl from my mind. What did she mean by "help us"? I burst into the living room, the moonlight filtering through the dusty windows. I scanned the space. It looked normal enough, but a heavy silence wrapped around me, thick and suffocating. I took a deep breath, trying to clear my head. I needed a plan. That's when I spotted something on the floor. A small wooden doll lay abandoned by the fireplace. Its features were worn, and it was painted in muted colors. I knelt beside it, feeling an odd pull toward the doll. I could sense it had once belonged to the girl. Then I remembered the laughter. My eyes flew to the empty corners of the room. "Is this yours?" I asked aloud, hoping she might answer. My voice felt small in the eerie stillness, but nothing stirred. I picked up the doll, its weight heavier than expected. As I held it, I felt a surge of energy ripple through me. Images flooded my mind. Flickers of happy moments, laughter in the sun, and the girl running hand in hand with someone else. It all felt achingly familiar, but the joy twisted into something darker. I saw flashes of fear, masks of sorrow, and darkness creeping in. "Why are you showing me this?" I whispered. Suddenly, the temperature dropped. I shivered, realizing I was not entirely alone. Without warning, the door slammed shut, startling me. I looked back at the doll. It felt like it was vibrating in my hands. Just then, I noticed a shadow dart past the window. The girl appeared in an instant, her pale face pressing against the glass, her eyes wide with panic. "Please," she cried, her voice barely a whisper. "Get the others." Confused and frightened, I rushed to the window. But when I got there, she vanished, leaving nothing but a chill behind. My heart raced as I frantically searched the room again. Then I remembered the trunk. I had to go back. It had to contain more than just dust. I ran toward it, the doll still clutched tightly in my hands. Each step felt heavy, the house urging me to turn back, but I couldn't. I pressed on. When I reached the trunk, I fell to my knees, breathless. The light was still flickering beneath it. I wanted to look away, to escape the darkness, but the flicker drew me closer. My fingers trembled as I brushed against the dusty wood, feeling the pulsation again, stronger now. I took a deep breath. "What's inside?" I murmured, lifting the lid slowly. I was greeted by a rush of cold air and shadows that swirled around me, wrapping tightly like a suffocating embrace. That's when I saw it. A series of small, crumpled photographs lay inside, faces peering out in silent agony. My stomach dropped. It was the girl. She was not alone. I recognized the other faces too, all of them, each one lost and trapped, begging for release. Then I heard a voice, deep and rumbling, echoing from inside the trunk. "You shouldn't have done that." The house started to shake, and a wave of darkness surged toward me. My heart sank. There was no turning back now. The darkness rushed at me, thick and suffocating. I clutched the doll as I stumbled backward, tripping over my own feet. The shaking grew more intense, the walls of the house reverberating like a drum. I had to get out. My mind raced for a way to escape. I leapt to my feet, adrenaline pushing me forward. The room felt alive, the shadows swirling around me, whispering threats I couldn't comprehend. I darted toward the door, desperate to escape the chaos, as my skin prickled with dread. But the door wouldn't budge. It felt like a solid wall, refusing to let me out. Panic tightened in my chest, my heart pounding with fear. The voice from the trunk echoed in my mind, saying, "You shouldn't have done that." Suddenly, a cold gust swept through the room, extinguishing the flickering light. I stood in total darkness, the photos still haunting my thoughts. They were not merely images, they were pleas for help. I couldn't leave, not yet. A memory flickered through my mind. The girl's voice. Get the others. Who were the others? I had to find out. There must be a way to help them, to understand why I was pulled here. I turned back toward the trunk, guided by instinct and the vague hope that whatever was lurking might give me answers. I cautiously knelt down, my hands shaking as they grazed the surface of the trunk. Pressing my palms against the wood, I willed myself to focus. "Show me more," I whispered. "Please." A surge of energy rushed through me, the trunk vibrating. Under my touch, the shadows seemed to thin, allowing the faint, ghostly outline of the girl and her friends to materialize before me. They hovered just at the edge of the trunk, their faces filled with sorrow and urgency. "Help us!" the girl cried again, her expression turning desperate. My heart shattered at the sight. These weren't just lost souls, they were trapped. "What do I do?" I pleaded, looking back and forth between them and the trunk. "How do I help you?" They pointed toward the photographs. I picked one up, my pulse quickening. It showed the girl, her eyes sparkling with delight as she laughed with others in a sunny park. But the corners of the photo were dark, almost charred, as if something had twisted the joy into despair. "Find the source," the girl's voice whispered, barely audible. "Break the curse." Before I could ask what she meant, the darkness shifted again, swirling around me like a storm. It clawed at my ankles, pulling me down. "Help us!" they echoed in unison, the words piercing through the din. I could feel the weight of their pain tugging me closer to the trunk. The energy surged again, and I was jolted back to the photos. I had to figure out the connection, the link that brought them to this house, and how to release them. Then, with a sudden snap, I was thrown backward against the wall. The trunk slammed shut, plunging me into darkness. I whispered, "No, no!" Frantically, I banged on the lid with my fists. In my desperation, I barely noticed the figure standing just beyond the window, watching me with hollow eyes. I turned just in time to see it grin, then vanish into the night shadows. I froze, dread flooding my senses. Whoever, or whatever, was out there, I was sure it had an answer. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I had to confront whatever was lurking in the corners of this house. I took a deep breath and steeled myself. "I'm coming for you," I whispered toward the window, knowing I couldn't do this alone. With the flicker of the photo still in my mind, I stepped toward the door, ready to confront the darkness outside. As I grasped the doorknob, I felt a jolt of electricity shoot through my body. The air around me was thick with anticipation, almost as if the house was breathing. I twisted the knob, my heart racing, and finally pushed the door open. It groaned, but it loosened its grip on me, revealing the night shrouded in fog. The street was eerily quiet, the only sound being my uneven breaths and the soft crunch of gravel beneath my shoes. I stepped outside, the cool air biting at my skin. The shadows danced around me, twisting and turning, but I had no time to dwell on my fears. I had to follow the figure I saw in the window. It had to know something about what happened. The girl and her friends. I moved cautiously, ready to duck back inside if anything threatened me. The streetlight flickered, casting long shadows that seemed to reach out, beckoning me to stay. I glanced back at the house. Its dark windows felt alive, almost hungry. Suddenly, a flash caught my eye. The figure again, illuminated for just a second. It was standing at the edge of the light, its shape vaguely human but shrouded in darkness. I took a step forward, but it seemed to vanish into the night. "Wait!" I shouted, my voice catching in the chilly air. No reply, just silence. Frustration bubbled inside me, pushing me forward. I remembered the girl's voice urging me to find the others. What could I do? Where could I start? The photographs flashed in my mind, their secret meanings lingering like an unsolved riddle. Then I felt a tug at my sleeve. I turned sharply, the instinct to run setting in again. But it was only the wind, swirling leaves nudging me forward. I decided to push through the unease. Perhaps if I found the source the girl mentioned, I would find the answers I needed. As I roamed deeper into the darkness, I stumbled upon an old park nearby, overgrown, forgotten. The swings creaked slightly, moving as if pushed by unseen hands. Steeling myself, I stepped onto the damp grass, scanning for anything out of place. It was then I spotted something glinting near the slide, a locket. I picked it up, running my fingers over its cool surface. As I opened it, an image tumbled out, one I recognized. It was the girl, smiling brightly. It seemed so hopeful, so alive. But looking closer, there was something else, hidden in the locket's other half, a small fragment of a handwritten note. I could barely make out the words. "We have to break free, before it's too late." My breath caught in my throat. Just then, shadows flickered at the edges of my vision, growing sharper, more defined. I could feel eyes watching me from the darkness. This time, I wasn't sure if it was the figures of the girl and her friends, or something else, something much darker. Panic clawed at my insides as the note's warning settled heavily on my heart. Before it's too late. What did that mean? I could almost hear the girl's pleading voice again, echoing through my mind. I took a step back, shivering with unease. A loud crash erupted behind me. Something had fallen. My pulse raced. I turned and saw a shadow darting just beyond the flicker of the park light, and it wasn't stopping. It was coming for me. I had no choice but to run, the locket clutched tightly in my hand. Whatever was out there was closing in, and I had to find a way to help the girl and her friends before it was too late. I ran as fast as I could, my lungs burning with every gasping breath. My feet was drowned out by the pounding of my heart. I had no idea what was behind me, but I knew I couldn't look back. I sprinted towards the edge of the park, the locket clutched so tightly that it was almost painful. I stumbled onto the sidewalk. The night air felt thicker here. I glanced over my shoulder. Whatever had been chasing me had disappeared into the shadows, but that didn't ease my fear. I skidded to a halt at the corner, trying to decide where to go next. The houses around me stood silent, their dark windows staring like vacant eyes. Then I remembered the nearby library. If the girl was trying to send me a message, maybe there was something there that could help me understand. I took off toward it, hoping to find some answers among the dusty old books. As I reached the library, I felt a sense of calm wash over me, but it was short-lived. The door creaked open under my touch, but the darkness inside was imposing. I stepped over the threshold, and the heavy stillness pressed down on me. Dim streetlights streamed through the windows, illuminating shelves that felt like they were crammed with whispers. I made my way to the back. It was a place I had visited often as a kid, but now it felt foreign and unwelcoming. My mind raced as I recalled the girl's photograph and the locket's message. What was it she wanted to break free from? Just ahead, I spied the local history section. Maybe I could find something about the girl and her friends that would shed light on their mysterious disappearance. I started to browse through the spines of old books, but nothing stood out. Some felt heavier than others, almost like they were holding secrets. That's when I noticed it, a book that seemed oddly warped, the cover dark and cracked with age. I slid it off the shelf, and dust billowed around me. The title was barely legible, Lost Souls of Riverton. My hands trembled as I opened it, revealing pages filled with strange symbols and faded photographs. Flipping through, I caught a glimpse of something that made my blood run cold. It was a photograph of the girl, the same one from the locket, but with 4 others standing beside her, their faces haunted, eyes wide with terror. Beneath it, a caption read, "Never to escape again." Before I could process what I was seeing, a voice sliced through the silence, making me jump. "What are you doing here?" I whirled around to find an older man with wild hair and wide eyes staring at me from behind the bookshelf. He looked both terrified and suspicious. I stammered, my heart racing once again. I'm just looking for information about her." But the man didn't respond. Instead, he stepped closer, glancing around as if he feared being overheard. "You shouldn't have come here. They don't want anyone knowing. Leave now." His warning sent chills down my spine. I felt a cold wave wash over me as the eerie weight of his words sank in. Who doesn't want anyone knowing? Before he could respond, the lights in the library flickered ominously. I felt a heaviness in the air, the kind you'd sense just before a storm, and I knew I had lost all my chances at safety. I had to find the truth, but now I was not just racing against time. I was racing against something much darker. The strange man's eyes widened in alarm as he backed away. "You have to go, before it finds you." And suddenly, I knew whatever I was searching for, whatever had happened to the girl and her friends, was closer than ever. I didn't need convincing. The urgency in the man's voice lit a fire under my feet. I turned, ready to flee, but something caught my eye. The flickering light above me grew dimmer, shadows creeping across the floor like living things. I felt a knot twist in my stomach, and I froze. "Wait," I called, my voice trembling. "What do you mean it will find me?" He shook his head, panic painting his features as his eyes darted toward the exit. "You can't understand. Just go." He backed away further, his hands hovering protectively over his head like a shield. I turned, poised to bolt, when I caught a glimpse of the book in my hand. "But this has answers." I hesitated, torn between the mysterious tome and the growing darkness around me. "No, the book is cursed. It'll only lead to more suffering," he yelled, his voice echoing in the chilling stillness. "Cursed." The words sent a shiver down my spine. The photograph of the girl and her friends flashed in my mind. If their fate was sealed within these pages, I had to know. I couldn't turn back without at least trying to dig deeper. The lights flickered again, casting erratic shadows that twisted like fingers reaching for me. I felt a knot twist in my stomach, and I froze. "Wait," I called, my voice trembling. "What do you mean it will find me?" He shook his head, panic painting his features as his eyes darted toward the exit. "You can't understand. Just go." He backed away further, his hands hovering protectively over his head like a shield. I turned, poised to bolt, when I caught a glimpse of the book in my hand. "But this has answers." I hesitated, torn between the mysterious tome and the growing darkness around me. "No, the book is cursed. It'll only lead to more suffering," he yelled, his voice echoing in the chilling stillness. "Cursed." The word sent a shiver down my spine. the photograph of the girl and her friends flashed in my mind. If their fate was sealed within these pages, I had to know. I couldn't turn back without at least trying to dig deeper. The lights flickered again, casting erratic shadows that twisted like fingers reaching for me. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the front of the library, followed by frantic whispers. The man's face turned white as he pressed his back against the shelf. "You need to go, now!" Heart racing, I made a split-second decision. I would take the book and run. I shoved it into my bag and dashed toward the exit, praying I wouldn't bump into whatever was lurking in the dark. But as I reached the door, I hesitated, the sounds of hurried footsteps growing closer. Something was coming in. I pushed through the door, slamming it shut behind me, just as the whispers turned to chaos. The cold night air hit me like a slap, but I didn't slow down. I sprinted down the sidewalk, the library lights fading behind me as panic surged through my veins. Where do I go? I thought, mind racing. I couldn't go home, not yet. I needed a safe place to figure out what was on those pages, and how it all connected. Then I spotted it, a small coffee shop that stayed open late. I made my way towards it, heart pounding. I didn't know if I was being followed, but the feeling of being watched returned with a vengeance. As I pushed the door open, warmth enveloped me, but I couldn't shake the sense of dread. The barista looked at me, confusion mixing with concern. "Are you all right?" "Busy night," I managed, forcing a smile as I slipped into a booth in the corner. I reached into my bag, fingers trembling, and pulled out the book. The leather felt cold and unyielding in my hands. I had to open it, but the fear of what it might reveal was overpowering. And then I noticed it, a fresh photo tucked inside the pages. My heart nearly stopped. The girl was there again, but this time she was not alone. Another face stared back at me, someone I recognized. It was the barista, looking right at the camera, her expression eerily serene. I looked up, my breath hitching in my throat. She met my gaze, and a strange smile spread across her face. This wasn't just a coincidence. Someone knew more than they were letting on. And I sensed I was now deeper in something terrifying than I had ever planned for. I tried to brush off the barista's smile as a simple quirk of character, but it didn't sit right with me. My fingers twitched against the edge of the book, desperate to turn the page, but I resisted. Everything about this moment felt wrong. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice sweet, yet somehow poised, as if she were not just a barista, but something more. I stared back, piecing together the unsettling connection. No, I'm just looking for a place to relax," I forced out, aware that I sounded nonchalant even as the panic clawed at my insides. She leaned in, lowering her voice. "You're not safe, are you?" Those words hung heavy in the air. I hadn't said anything. How did she know? I glanced around the coffee shop. It was nearly empty, save for an elderly man sipping tea in the back corner and a couple at a window booth, their laughter echoing hollowly. "What do you mean?" "People like you often end up in trouble. The book you've taken," she paused, glancing toward the door, "it carries weight." My mind raced. "What do you know about it?" Her smile faltered, and for a moment the barista looked like the girl in the photo, calm on the outside, but with shadows lurking in her eyes. "I've seen it. I've seen its toll on others. You can't let it control you." I swallowed hard, the weight of the book in my bag suddenly feeling unbearable. "How do you know about it?" "I have my ways." She straightened up, her demeanor shifting like the flickering lights from earlier. "But it's you that needs to be careful. It spreads. If it finds you, it won't just take you, but others too." Her words chilled me. My breath faltered, heart hammering in my chest. "What do you mean?" Before she could respond, a commotion erupted outside the shop. I turned to see dark figures rushing past the window, their silhouettes sharp against the neon lights. A knot of fear twisted tighter in my stomach. "Get out," the barista said urgently, her calm facade breaking. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice trembling. The shadows I had sensed earlier were gathering, growing closer. Then everything shifted. A loud bang resounded as the coffee shop door burst open. The figures had entered. Pale faces and frantic eyes scanned the room, locking onto me. I scrambled out of the booth, taking in the chaos unfolding. "Who are you?" I shouted, the volume of my voice muffled by the rising panic. The barista stepped in front of me, but I could see the fear building in her own eyes. "You need to leave, now!" I darted for the door, adrenaline driving my legs. As I reached the entrance, the same man from the library appeared in the doorway, breathless and wild-eyed. "Don't let them take the book," he yelled, urgency etched of his face. Thoughts collided in my mind. Why was he here? How did he know? And then I realized. Whoever or whatever these figures were, they weren't just searching for me. They wanted the book. With a deep breath, I pushed through the door, the weight of uncertainty hanging over me, and plunged into the night. I ran down the sidewalk with my heart racing, the shadows chasing me like long fingers in the dark. I didn't dare look back. The coffee shop still buzzed behind me, but those figures, whatever they were, sent a wave of primal terror through me. I could almost hear the barista calling for me, but I pressed on, adrenaline propelling me forward. I turned a corner and ducked into an alley, hoping to lose them. The darkness engulfed me, thick and heavy. The only light came from a flickering lamppost at the end, casting long shadows that made my skin crawl. I felt the weight of the book in my bag, its presence both comforting and alarming. I had to figure out what it all meant, and fast. Just as I caught my breath, I heard voices emerging from the street. They were close. My heart sank, and instinctively I crept deeper into the shadows. I could hear snippets, phrases that sent chills down my spine. Find her, the book, and something that sounded remarkably like, "Time is running out." What did they want with me, and why wasn't I safe until I knew? I couldn't ignore the girl's desperate plea to help us. They passed by the end of the alley and moved on, but I didn't dare move until the noise faded entirely. After a moment, I slowly stepped back into the open, feeling the cold breeze whisper against my cheeks. I needed to get somewhere safe, somewhere I could focus on the book and its secrets. Suddenly, a jolt of clarity struck me. The old park. If there was any hope of breaking this curse, it was there. Racing thoughts urged me forward, and I took off toward it once more. The darkness told me it was too risky. I could be walking right into their trap, but I silenced that fear. I had to know what our connection was, and I had to find a way to get that girl and the others out. The park loomed as I arrived, shrouded in moonlight and eerie silence. I felt a strange pull toward the slide where the locket had been found. I headed straight forward and paused, chest heaving. The memories replayed in my mind as I looked around. I took a deep breath, then opened the book again, the pages smelling of dust and the past. I sifted through them, seeking something, an explanation, a way out, anything that could anchor me. And then, there it was. I found a passage that spoke of a right, a way to confront the darkness that bound the lost souls. But there was a catch. The balance of light and dark had to be perfectly maintained. Just as I began to make sense of it, a gust of wind swept through the park, sending chills crawling over my skin. I glanced up, the shadows beginning to swirl more wildly. I felt them closing in, matching that feeling of dread from before. "Help us!" the girl's voice echoed in my mind again, piercing my focus. I looked around frantically, trying to ground myself. The fear was tangible. Suddenly, the shadows twined together into a solid dark mass, and from it emerged a figure. It was the girl, her pale face edged with familiarity, yet twisted by the tension in the air. "Please, before it's too late," she whispered, her eyes pleading. I took a step forward, heart racing. "I'm trying to help you, but I need to know what to do. Tell me." But at that moment, the darkness flared, erupting into a brilliant, blinding light. I shielded my eyes, feeling the energy surge and swirl around me. The others materialized beside her, their ethereal shapes radiating anguish. I grasped the book tightly, feeling its pages ripple with power. "Focus," the girl urged. "You have to give them light." Before I could process her words, the shadows lunged toward me, no longer separate, but engulfing me in their depths. I felt my stomach drop, a sensation of falling through layers of panic and despair. Instinctively, I brought the book closer, whispering the incantation I had just read. The words spilled out in a rush, each syllable charged with desperation. As I spoke, the brilliance around me flared even brighter, the darkness tangling like a beast. I could hear their cries. Desperate yet mournful, echoing through the night. I clung tightly to the book, letting my own memories blaze in my mind. The joy of Ben laughing, the warmth of love. The shadows writhed in agony, releasing a cacophony of wails that drowned out my voice. The boundary of darkness and light blurred chaotically, and I felt a heart-wrenching tug at my core, an emptiness, an echo of things lost. "Help us!" they cried out, more insistent. I felt it. My strength wavered, but I refused to give in. "I won't let you down!" In that moment, something shifted. The darkness unraveled, shrinking back as beams of light burst forth around me like fireworks. Hope danced in the air as the girl reached out, trembling fingers meeting mine. Then, distance erupted in a rush. I felt energy swirling, voices uniting in a mighty chorus, and suddenly the light exploded, engulfing everything. I stumbled back, shielding my eyes, and when I looked again, I was alone. The park was silent, the wind settling into stillness. But I wasn't without hope. The book lay at my feet, its pages flipping wildly, revealing names, names that echoed through my mind, filling me with warmth. I had felt their pain, and in a way, I had found them. I still think about it sometimes. I moved away shortly after, leaving that neighborhood behind. But even now, in the light of day, I can't shake the feeling that those shadows are still lingering, both in that house and in others. I still wonder if the girl is free, or if she and the others stuck with me had awakened something far greater. As for the book, I buried it beneath the roots of an old tree in my new town. Part of me knows I may one day have to dig it up, if only for them. But for now, I try not to think about it. A lingering unknowing, a shadow, always close, but never fully embraced.